Okay, we're back again. This is step 2. We're actually going to be doing some assembly on the applicator boom itself. Whenever it comes to you, it'll be shipped just like this. Our wing wires will be zip tied in place, and the pockets will be in place. The bolts will all be in the pockets. You will notice colored zip ties on the wing wires. Those are important. So at this point, we're going to go ahead and do final assembly on it. Shipped along with the unit was a box like this one. It has 6 insulators, 4 shims, some wing wire brackets, some other parts to it. You have a group of insulator arms that were shipped along with the unit. They will have the stems in them. Notice the colored zip ties on the stems. Those are important. You will also have a group of high voltage copper that is used on the machine itself. So we're going to bring Dalton in. He's going to do most of the work while I do most of the talking. And we're going to get started putting this thing together. So Dalton is going to go through there and take off the bolts. I'm going to go ahead and open up the page of insulator arms, begin laying them in position. One thing I want to point out to you on the insulator arms, 2 of them will have the high voltage sticker on them. Those will need to go to the outside. Of course, the high voltage sticker will need to face out so that people could see that and be warned of the danger possibility. We always lay the arms where they go. That way, if by chance those colored zip ties get removed, we don't have to make a phone call to figure out where do they go. Okay, once you have all your arms in place, make sure that the label, as I've said, is pointed towards the outside. That way, if you were a bystander, you could find that. You'll notice that we have our colored zip ties in place, and they do correspond with the colored zip ties on the wing wires themselves. At this point, we're ready to go ahead and cut the wing wires loose. Dalton's going to go ahead and open up our box and start threading insulators on. I'm going to start working on the wing wires themselves. You'll notice that the zip ties that are holding the wing wires that will get cut off, the tail will still be on the zip tie. If the tail has not been cut off of the zip tie, then you will need to cut that zip tie to release the wing wire itself. You'll notice this zip tie here does not have a tail on. It's a little cold here in Missouri, and those liquid tight kind of seem to have their own mindset when it's cold outside. Okay, inside of the cardboard box here that Dalton opened up, we have the little bitty black angle brackets. We have the 2-hole straps with screws, 2 separate bags, 1 bag inside of the other bag. The first thing we're going to do is go ahead and put on the black angle brackets. We're just going to do a couple of these for example. We're not going to do all of them because it's just simple repetition once you've done it once. Make sure that the black angle bracket has the screws away from the liquid tight. over tighten it. This is fiberglass. It will not strip out easily, but it will strip out. One thing I'd like to point out to you is the arms themselves have 6 pilot holes evenly spaced down through there. I think that's pretty self-explanatory, but we want to make sure to call that to your attention. There's no measuring needed, and that's why there's no measurements given in the instructions themselves. The next thing we're going to do is put on some of the 2-hole straps. It takes 2 per arm, and those are supplied in the kit. On the wing wire itself, you simply loosen up the lock nut. The wing wire will smash through there. Make sure to not nick the wing wire whenever you do it. This is up to 15,000 volts. Skinned insulation can cause aggravation for you in the field. The 2-hole straps simply go over top of the liquid tight. Once again, the pilot holes make this a pretty simple, pretty quick process. As you can tell, that one was a little bit snug. You may have to move slack one way or the other way to get it to meet your black angle bracket. As you can see, there is slack, and this one will probably be a little bit long. The wing wires are all pre-cut to length, so it's not that they're not long enough, it's just simply that you may need to switch more slack from one side or the other. On this one, I'm going to remove the bolt and feed it through. Of course, that's another option, however you would rather do it. You will notice that the center copper have wing nuts. They are nylock nuts, but they are wing nuts installed on them. Once again, tighten up the lock nut a little bit. We'll put that back on there so we don't lose it before we need it. And then we'll put on our 2 half-moon straps. And then we're going to go ahead and put some copper on this thing. We do recommend that you put the center copper on first, or center high voltage electrode on first. You will notice that the copper electrodes are different lengths. They are cut to length. There are instructions in the instruction manual telling you what length of copper goes where. With that being said, it's not rocket science. Allow them to overlap each other by about 2 inches at the hinge point of the boom. And as you can see, we do have some excess left over here. So if that would have been too short, we could simply just feed that excess over there and it would have worked out about right. I'm going to go ahead and tighten up our pocket bolts. These are nylock nuts, as Dalton's laying out the copper. These are nylock nuts. Simply make sure it's in the nylock, and that's all that's needed. One little recommendation, we do always make sure that the nut is away from the hinge point of the boom. That way you don't catch your head on it. We always try to make sure that they're facing the two sections together. One thing I wanted to point out here on our high voltage electrode copper, there are a couple different ways to route your wing wire, but the most important thing is to keep a smooth finish to the front so that the weeds or crop do not try to hang up on it. So you'll notice the bolt head will always be on the front whenever I install it on my system, and the wing nut will always be on the back, as well as the excess threads. The other thing that I wanted to call attention to you is whenever Dalton installed these, the back of the insulator has a ring terminal on it. I'll show you over here. And you'll notice that the way Dalton has them installed is correct. The ring terminal should always be facing back towards the tractor or away from the direction of travel. So obviously we're mounting this on the front of the tractor. We're going to be going forward. So we want this smooth, tapered nose, as you can see here, so that we're not having crop hang up on it to melt our insulators off of it. The copper is pre-drilled. There again, those measurements are in there, but it's not rocket science. Make sure that the holes are just inside the insulators. You can see here, Dalton has about 6 inches of overlap. Typically we would see about 2 or 3 inches. Measure it and see how you want it to lay out on your crops. The last thing I'm going to make mention to you is your high voltage cable coming from the tractor or from the cart in the back of the tractor. We obviously don't have it put on this one yet. Would feed right through here. The gray conduit would stop here. You'll notice that all of our speed sensor and harness wires are in behind this bracket. Make sure that the hose is not hooked in under that. Make sure the hose stays above it. Stop the gray conduit here. Your high voltage cable would come up here and join beside this wing wire, run down and hook on at the exact same location as the wing wire. We used to recommend suspending it between the front of the boom and the center electrode, but then we ended up getting some damage to the cable because of people running with dew or high moisture on. So we recommended doing it this way. We've been doing it this way for a couple seasons ourselves, and it's worked very well. So once again, you'll see that little black bracket right there on the back of your boom. The gray conduit stops here. The red high voltage cable comes up. Simply zip tie it to the side of your arm or to the side of your high voltage copper. Use the exact same bolt and bolt it together. Once again, we appreciate your business. We appreciate you watching. We hope this helps. Stay safe. God bless. Thanks.